Hello, so we're back with another chapter out of Anastasia, and so let's just take a deep breath. I feel like I really need that right now. I'm just about to set off on an adventure, a journey, a dream trip that I'm about to go on for the next 2.5 weeks. This spiritual adventure I'm going on that is something I didn't even realize was a dream until recently, but I realize it's something that I planned for myself eons ago. I'm about to walk through a huge portal of upgrades and transformation. So it's quite a significant day when I read this chapter, and it is the 6th of November as I record this. It's quite a significant energetic day globally as well. You know, November, there's going to be massive shifts that come in for humanity individually and collectively for us during November as we traverse. You know, we started November with a, whilst I don't know all about astrology, but what I do know in terms of what's happening in the planets is we started November, and you can feel this in your body, right? We start November with a new moon, we end November with a new moon, which I think is so interesting that November is bookended with new moons, and during November we go through a celestial new year. The energies are going to get so right now my ear is ringing so much. The energies are going to get so intense during November, but it's going to be a good thing, right? It's going to be great for humanity, for our individual freedoms and liberation. So this is a day. So if you're watching this now, perhaps a dream's about to come true for you as well. Perhaps you're about to go on an adventure. So I wanted to read a chapter before I left because I'm going to be away for a couple of weeks. So let's see what today's chapter, with that in mind, has in place, and let's call in. So I needed a breath because I've just been on the go for the last few days, just getting everything sorted out before I go, getting everything in place. So let's call in our angelic guides and helpers. Let's call in the angels. Let's call in the dragons, the fae, all of the elemental spirits. Let's call in all of the animal spirits. I've said to you before as we've been moving through this, the animal spirits are so loud and present right now. So the chapter is Who Will Bring Up Our Son? On the way back to the river, as Anastasia was escorting me to my motorboat, we sat down to rest in the place where she had left her outer clothing, and I asked her, Anastasia, who will bring up our son? Try to understand, Vladimir. You are not yet ready to bring him up. And when his eyes first take in a conscious awareness of this world, you should not be there. I seized her by the shoulders and gave her a shaking. What are you saying? What liberties are you taking here? I can't understand how you could have come to such one-sided conclusions anyway, even though that mere fact of your existence is incredible. That doesn't give you the right to decide everything yourself and in violation of all the rules of logic. Calm down, Vladimir, please. I do not know what logic you have in your mind, but do try to make sense of it calmly. What am I to make sense of? The child is not only yours, he's mine too, and I want him to have a father. I want him to be well taken care of and to get an education. Please understand, he does not need any kind of material benefits as you see them. He will have everything right from the start. Even in his infancy, he will be taken in and making sense of so much information that your kind of education will be simply ludicrous. And it's interesting, actually, me and my mum were just, because my mum's here, because I've got 2 cats, and my mum and dad are going to be looking after my cats while I'm away. And we were just talking today, because obviously we were talking about the fact that a lot of, I've probably talked in here about how, our education is not education, it's indoctrination. It's a lot of lies and things to make us slaves, basically, to actually disconnect us from our true soul self, from our divinity. And actually, I was watching a podcast yesterday, what a friend had sent me, and in the podcast, the guy in it, Greg Barden, I think he's called. Apologies, I've got his last name wrong, but Greg, he was kind of saying, like, the severing from our divinity is evil. And I thought, yes, absolutely. The fact that we've been kept from who we are, that is evil. And our education system, and I don't mean everyone in the education system, but the system itself, it's seeded with that. It's seeded to disconnect people from their divinity. So she's absolutely right there, you know. And me and my mum were talking about the fact that lots of people are waking up to this and are taking the kids out of out of schools because of the stuff that they are teaching, in particularly around sex education and this kind of area. People in droves are taking kids out of school right now. But obviously back then, Vladimir would not have realised this anyway, as I didn't when these books were written over 20 years ago. Um, Even in his infancy, he will be taken in and making sense of so much information that your kind of education will be simply ludicrous. It is the same as sending a learned mathematical back to grade one. I love it. That is hilarious. It is, because it's backwards, and we're going to really find out how backwards what we've been taught is. You want to bring the baby some kind of senseless toy, but he has absolutely no need for it whatsoever. You are the one who needs it for your own self satisfaction. Oh, look at me. I'm so good at caring. If you think that you will do some good by offering your son a car or anything else along that line, well, he can get it himself just by wishing for it. Be calm and think about something specific you could tell your son. Think about what you could teach him. Think about what you have done in life that he might find interesting. Anastasia continued, talking in soft, quiet tones. Her words still made me tremble. I mean, I can understand why he's getting agitated and angry. Like, you see, Vladimir, when he begins to make sense of creation, you will look like an underdeveloped creature next to him, because that's exactly what it's been doing. It's been regressing us. Do you really want that? Do you really want your son to see you standing there like a dimwit? The only thing that can bring the two of you together is your level of mental purity, but few attain that level in your world. You must strive to attain it. I realised that it was absolutely useless to argue with her, and I cried out of despair. Does that mean he'll never know anything about me? I shall tell him about you, about your world, when he is able to comprehend it in a meaningful way and make his own decisions. What he will do then, I do not know. Despair, pain, resentment, fearful conjecture, all these swirled around in my brain. I felt like smashing this beautiful intellectual recluse's face with all my might. I understood everything, and what I understood left me breathless. It's all clear. Now it's all clear to me. You had no body to bang with to give you a child. That business at the beginning, that was all just an act. You sly vixen, you made yourself into a nun. You needed a child, but you did go to Moscow. She sold her mushrooms and berries. Ha, you could have got yourself a shag right there on the street. All you had to do was take off that jacket and shawl of yours, and you would have take us right off. Then you wouldn't need to spin the web and trap me in it. Of course you needed a man who was dreaming about a son, and now you've got yours. Did you ever think about the child, about your son, one destined to advance, to live the life of a recluse, to live the way you think he should? Come on now. She's been sounding off about the truth. You've got an awful lot of gall, you hermit. What is it with you? Truth as a last resort. Well, did you ever think about me? I dreamt about a son. I dreamt about passing along my business to him. I teach him to be a businessman. I wanted a son to love. And now, how am I supposed to live? To live and know that your precious little son is crawling around unprotected somewhere out in the wilds, with no future, with no father. That's what breaks my heart. But that's not something you can understand, you forest bitch. Oh, it's quite angry. I mean, it's really quite, you have to like give respect to the author in this, because obviously he's traversed through these books, although I haven't read them all yet. He's obviously awakening more and more. And the fact that he's being so vulnerable and so open with this, something, you know, these are the things that we are programmed to believe and think. We're so programmed away from truth, and we're going to react in these kinds of ways when we're feeling threatened, disrespected, all these kind of things. We're going to start projecting all of this stuff. But I mean, the fact that he's, you know, being able just to lay it all out like this, what's really been going through his mind, it takes a lot of courage, and I really respect that. Because we all have these darknesses within us. I'm going to link a video about that actually, because we are light and dark. We both these things, and we're made to feel ashamed about the darkness that stirs within us. But it's actually for us to be able to see that darkness with compassion, with love, with non-judgment, and through that compassion, love, and non-judgment, well, that's our light. Through that light, we transmute that darkness and we start to alchemize it. But often we're made to feel guilt and shame about those things that come up into our consciousness. So perhaps Anastasia quietly responded, "Your heart will gain the awareness it needs and everything will be all right. A pain like that will cleanse the soul, accelerate thought, and summon you to creation." And that's so right. Just think about what she just said then. I'm going to read that again because that's very profound. A pain like that, so a pain of not being able to see his son, that pain of separation, a pain or perceived separation, because you never separate from anyone. A pain like that will cleanse the soul. It will accelerate your thought and it will summon you to creation, right? Think about all of the dark moments that you've been through, all of the things that we go through that are difficult in this life, that are the darkness. It's those dark points that actually it's where we find our light. It's where we transform. It's where we change. It's where we become the phoenix and we rise up out of the ashes. It is the darkness. Often we need the pain. I mean, we are going to be moving into a world where we don't need the pain to learn that way anymore, but often we've needed that pain. We've needed things to be taken from us, shown to us. We've needed that in order for us to wake up and change and move on to our destined path, to start reaching for higher thoughts, wisdom, knowledge, waking up, remembering who we are, doing the inner work. So that's so profound what she's saying there, because that's the truth. We've all needed those. It's those points that have been the springboards into. And I look back at my life now, I'm about to set off on this amazing adventure and dream, and it's been like that. So many dreams this year has been coming true. And it's because when I've gone through those dark points, I've used it to propel me forward rather than take me down. But I was still burning with rage and anger. I wasn't in control of myself. I grabbed a stick. I ran away from Anastasia and began beating the stick against a small tree with all of my might until the stick broke. Then I turned to look at Anastasia standing there, and no sooner had I seen her I don't know why I said that then. No sooner did I see her than, incredibly, the anger started to leave. I thought of myself, oh, now I've gone and done it again. I lost control of myself and went wild, just like the last time when I swore at her. Anastasia was standing there against a tree, one arm stretched upward, her head bent forward as though withstanding the onslaught of a hurricane. With my anger completely gone, I went closer and began looking at her. Now her hands were clasped to her chest, her body slightly trembling. She didn't speak, only her kind eyes were looking at me with the same tenderness as before. We stood there that way for some time, just looking at each other, and I started reflecting along these lines. There's no doubt about it, she is incapable of lying. She didn't have to say anything, but she knew it would be hard, and yet she spoke. Of course, that is another extreme. How can you possibly live if you must always tell the truth and say only what you think? But what can you do if that's the way she is and can't be anything else? What's done is done. Everything happened the way it happened. Now she will be the mother of my son. She will be a mother if she said so. Of course, she'll be a pretty strong mother. That lifestyle of hers and the way of thinking, oh well, there's nothing to be done with her. She's physically very strong, very kind. She really knows nature well, knows the animals, and she's smart in her own particular way, at least. In any case, she knows a lot about raising children. She kept wanting to talk about children the whole time. She'll nurture the boy. Somebody like her will definitely nurture him. She'll get him through the cold, through snowstorms even. They mean nothing to her. She'll nurture him. I'm getting absolute chills through all my body while I'm reading this bit. She'll nurture him, yes indeed, and she'll bring him upright. And somehow I've got to adapt to the situation. I'll come and see them in the summertime, like going to a garden plot, No way in the winter, I couldn't make it, but in the summer I can play with my son. He'll grow up and I'll tell him about people in big cities. At any rate, this time I've got to apologise to her. And I said, I'm sorry, Anastasia, I got nervous again. And right off she said, you are not to blame, because she understands it's the programming, right? Only do not be hard on yourself. So she's telling him, you've got to have compassion with these darknesses that we have inside us. That's the way we start to alchemize and transmute those passions. And it's her energy of kindness and love that's helping him to actually have that outburst and then come and see that's not the energy. Do not worry. But it takes a lot of strength. You've got to be really strong and connected to your own sense of self-worth, to connect it to your own divinity, in order to be able to be in a situation where someone's coming at you like that, and actually be able to hold love and peace and space. And as humans right now, we're going to be asked to do, us that are on this journey of spiritual mastery, of ascension. If you're watching this, you are one of those people, and it's just coming up to 11:11 on the clock as well, as it's 1:11 on the clock. So as you are on, we're going to be asked as humans to, there's going to be a lot of chaos out there as the world is transforming, as everything that needs to crumble is crumbling, and we're going to be asked to hold the light. It's 11:11 now as I say that. Hold the light. I read a channeled message in a book that I was reading. It's on my channel. I'll link that as well, 144 Pearl Codes. And in one of the chapters, Archangel Michael came through with a message. And it was when I was reading the message, I felt his fire move through me. I felt his strength. I felt his passion. That's what Archangel Michael is: strength, passion, truth. He holds the sword of truth, the will of God, of the divine. And he came through and he said, hold the light. Hold the light. That's what we're going to be asked to do right now. Hold the light through our spiritual mastery, because there's going to be a lot of chaos, and there's going to be a lot of people where their programs are being activated on steroids. But as we hold that light, just like she did then, that is what dissolves that darkness. That is what transmutes that darkness. It is compassion, it is love, it is non-judgment, it's understanding that when people react in these ways, it is program. It's not to say that you put with abuse, but also we don't abuse back, right? We can hold the space and understand it's not personal, it's the programming. Only do not be hard on yourself. Do not worry. After all, you were concerned about your son. You were afraid that things would turn out bad for him, that the mother of your son was just an ordinary bitch. Interesting choice of words. That she could not love with real human love. But you must not worry. You must not get upset. You talk that way because you did not know. You did not know anything about my love, my darling. So I'm going to leave it. Actually, there's such a little short chapter here. Why don't I read that as well and add it on? So it's called Through a Window of Time. Anastasia, if you are so smart and omnipotent, that means you could help me too. She looked up at the sky and then again at me. In the whole of the universe, there is no being capable of more powerful development and greater freedom than man. All of the civilizations bow before man. Exactly. And again, yesterday, this podcast that I was watching, and they were talking about these ancient texts that have been found in Sumerian texts. And those Sumerian texts, some people say that it says that the Anunnaki created the human as a slave species, but that is not the truth. The dark forces want you to believe that, so that you think you're nothing more than a slave. You are not a slave. The human was not created as a slave species. The human was created as an angelic human for our higher godlike selves to come into these avatar bodies and have all of the gifts of God's source, right? So the human form is an angelic hybrid form, and it was made for greatness, not as a slave. Now, it is true that the body has been manipulated and genetically modified and changed, so we've been dumbed down in our DNA, deactivated, and we're going through a process of reawakening that right now, through divine intervention, divine light, through rediscovering the truth of who we are. So I love that she says this, right? So I'm going to read that again, because it's so important for us to remember who we are. In the whole of the universe, there is no being capable of more powerful development and greater freedom the man. All other civilizations bow before man. All sorts of civilizations have the capability of developing and bringing themselves to perfection, but only in one direction, and they are not free. The greatness of man is beyond even their grasp. God, the great mind, created man, and to no one else gave he more than to man. I could not make sense, at least right off, of what she was saying, and again I uttered the same question, pleading for help. Not fully understanding what kind of help I needed, she asked me, "What is it that you have in mind? Do you want me to cure all your physical ailments?" There is a simple that is a simple matter for me. I already did this 6 months ago, only in the principal area of need no benefit came about. The dark and destructive elements common to people of your world have not lessened in you, and your various aches and pains are trying to come back again. She's a witch, a madwoman, hermit. I ought to be getting out of here at once. You are probably thinking, right? Yes, I answered in amazement. That is exactly what I was thinking. You read my mind. I surmised that is what you might be thinking. Indeed, it is written all over your face. Tell me, Vladimir, do you not well remember at least a little, having seen me before? The question dumbfounded me, and I began carefully re-examining her facial features, especially her eyes. I really began to think that I might have seen them somewhere before, but where? Anastasia, you said yourself that you spent all your time in the forest. How then could I have seen you? She gave me a smile and ran off. A short while later, Anastasia came out from behind the bushes dressed in a long skirt, a brown buttoned cardigan, her hair done up in a shawl but without the quilted jacket in which she had greeted me on the river bank. And the shawl was tied just a little differently. Her clothes were clean though, not stylish, and her shawl covered her forehead and neck, and I remembered her. Ooh, what a great place to end that. And that is, I'm afraid, going to be the last one for at least two and a bit weeks, because I'm going on an adventure right now, and I did want to try and record some more and schedule them before I left, but I just have been crazy getting everything done. So hopefully you enjoyed this last one, and obviously I will be returning with the rest of them. This is a real special day when I'm recording this, the 6th of November. So if you're watching this right now on the 6th or even after, then this is a special energy coming in for you also, and I wish you so many miracles. I wish that your life is showered with miracles and blessings every single day, and just really look out for recognize those blessings. When was it? It was on Monday I was going for this interview for something. It was something that if I'd have done this years ago, I'd probably felt quite bad about myself, about the help that I was asking for, but I didn't. I just felt this sense of so much blessing in what was taking place, and there were so many little things that happened that day, that monetary wise wasn't anything, right? But in terms of what they were spiritually, emotionally, the gifts that I was given that day, they were such blessings. And actually, at certain points when I got those little gifts, I felt so overcome with joy and emotion, and I felt so abundant. Yeah, I've never been in a position where financially I've had less while I'm growing my business, while I'm taking off, but I felt more abundant than I've ever felt in my life. So when you start to feel that wealth inside, you've really, I really saw how many programs I've overcome to get to this point where I just wanted to share that, because wealth comes in so many different ways, abundance comes in so many different ways. So I'm wishing you so much miracles, so many blessings, so much abundance. I hope it just showers down, rains down, just knocks you over with the force of it today.